Wall Street Memes Casino,
I'm fine.
and Sportsbook.
This is Colin McGuigan for IFLTV. I have pestered this man for months, and eventually I'm actually getting to speak to him. Stephen Espinoza, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Good to see you, Cole.
Great to speak to you. Obviously, first of all, I think the question on a lot of fans' mouths, and possibly in the UK, is what is Stephen Espinoza's role in this whole shebang? What is it?
So I'm supervising TV production. So that goes for the live telecast. That goes for the shoulder programming, which this version is called Gloves Off. Distributed on Amazon Prime, and it's similar to some of the roles that I filled at Showtime. But obviously, having moved, PBC had to build a production infrastructure in-house, from the ground up, and they've asked me to do that for them.
Is that a role for you going forward? Is there still open options elsewhere, or what's the situation?
Look, we're taking it. Like right now, this is a full-time job. The reality is it's a lot to replace an infrastructure that had been in place for 37 years when you talk about what Showtime did. So, we'll see where things go long term. I mean, as you know, once you get in this sport, you never really escape it. You really never get out of it. So, and I'm not really trying. I've got a passion for the sport. I love TV production, so this is perfect. It still gets me involved in these huge events.
Let me get your opinion on a few things first. So, the Saudi involvement in the sport, obviously we've seen unprecedented scenes recently where if I had have asked you this a year ago, you probably would have laughed at me. Now we're seeing all the big names coming together. Just your thoughts on that, first of all.
Well, look, I think it's a fantastic development. Look, money solves a lot of the problems. It solves a lot of the rivalries that we're seeing, and that's essentially what's making these guys work together. Now, I think it's incumbent upon the rest of the sport. It's not the Saudi job, but the rest of the sport to make sure that we're not becoming overly dependent, and everyone's just waiting around for a big Saudi check and a big Saudi event. We need everybody else to continue to work. We need developmental fights. We got mid-level fights. We got the big fights. Some in Saudi, some other places. I think it's absolutely helping the health of the sport. The question is let's not become over dependent. And everyone waiting around to get the phone call instead of working and building their own platform and their own fighters and opportunistically taking advantage of the opportunities when they come up.
On the back of what you've just said, do you envisage a situation where possibly you and Eddie Hearn are in the same room discussing a fight card and putting things together, and maybe a massive card on Amazon and DAZN as a co-promotion?
I don't have any problem. I don't have any problem. I've said pretty consistently. Look, there are fights to be done, and we'll do them. There are bygones can be bygones at any point. So the reality, if anyone's willing to shake my hand and make a firm commitment and work together toward a common goal, happy to work with them, whether it's Eddie or anybody else.
With Boots leaving and going to Matchroom, you had such a close relationship with Boots. I believe you were his personal advisor and stuff at one point, it's been said. Have you still got that relationship with Boots?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the relationship, yes. The advisor, I'm not sure where that came from. I think I do. I think there's one particular video that was miscaptioned and everyone ran with it. But no, I was never hired as an advisor to him. Look, I helped develop his career along with Bozy and the rest of his team, and I think we're being close to the process. We've had a lot of conversations. I understand why he decided to go the way he did, and I certainly don't have any ill will toward him. As much as I ever have, I wish him success going forward with Matchroom or with everybody else. He's still a fantastic fighter. We still have a close relationship. I'm still expecting to be there ringside, when he fights in Philly or wherever it ends up. And I still think that he's one of the most promising young fighters in the sport. He's the guy to watch for the next 5 to 10 years.
Stephen, just your thoughts on yesterday, Canelo and Oscar, and what was chaos, really, that people maybe didn't think would go as far as it did. What's your thoughts on that? Is that the sell and hype of the event?
I don't think it was selling hype. My theory, and I've got two theories, and I can't decide which one might be a combination of the two. One is it was a calculated effort by Oscar to provide a distraction, or maybe make Canelo angry, and maybe go into him with fighting two fronts, fighting Oscar and Munguia, or distracting him. I think that might have been part of it, because certainly we didn't see this kind of energy from Oscar at the kickoff press conference or in between. So I think the timing of what happened is very interesting. But I also think at the same time, even if it was that, clearly both guys had things to get off their chest, and so even if it started as sort of, I'm going to poke the bear in a little calculated way, once the dam broke, clearly there's a lot of resentment that had been under the surface that boiled over, and they got to, clear the air, so to speak. And I don't think they resolved anything, but clearly there's a lot that they wanted to get off their chest for a while.
Eddie Hearn said in an interview today that he spoke to Canelo last night. He's very angry at the situation, and he believes that Canelo would actually slap Oscar De La Hoya. What do you think about that?
I think he's angry enough too. I think he's offended at what was said. But generally, and we have seen it. Look, we've seen it in the Caleb Plant situation. But if there's a consummate professional, it's Canelo. He's cool, calm, collected. The only time we've seen anything like that was at the Caleb Plant press conference. So no, I expect Canelo to comport himself to the high standards he usually does.
Yesterday, breaking news came out about Ryan Garcia. Just what's your thoughts on that?
Well, we'll say first before we get into it. There's still developments to be had. There's a B sample, but I've got a lot of thoughts. Number one, I'm disappointed for the sport. Because that fight, the Garcia-Haney fight, generated so much enthusiasm, excitement, and really a rush of energy. And I was there in the arena, and there were so many people there, knowledgeable, experienced boxing people who say, look, it's one of the best fights that they can remember seeing in person. And it really was. And, all credit to both Ryan and Devin, for that fight. And so some of the shine and the enthusiasm has been taken off. Let's assume that, the tests hold up. It certainly is not a good thing for the sport overall. What I'm curious about, and I think it says a lot, is about the timing of the tests. Because the timing of the test, I believe there's one the day before the fight, one either the night of the fight or the next day, and they were VADA tests. So, look, you know more about the Conor Ben situation probably than I do, but one of the issues in that was, it's not a commission test, and can you get punished for a commission test? Now, the timing is different here. Conor Ben was not, the weekend of the fight where you got positive tests. But I think there's still that same token. This was not a New York Commission test. This was a VADA test. Now, what's going to happen with the New York Commission test come back? Because this isn't a situation where VADA popped him 6 weeks ago and the commission tests him the night of the fight. VADA popped him Friday. There's a commission test Saturday. And I think we'll find out a lot about the state of commission tests, because if the commission tests don't come back positive too, then that says either something about the VADA test, or maybe it says something about the fact that these state commissions don't really have the resources to be keeping up with the state of the art on the PED side.
Last one for me. There's a big queue for you, and I feel bad taking so much of your time, but there's been so many times that I've wanted to speak to you.
Like 3 months.
Just your opinion on Tank and Floyd's beef. Where does it originate from, and do you believe that that's reconcilable? You said, bygones be bygones in the sport, and people make up. Do you see that being the case here?
Look, I certainly wouldn't put it out. Like, Floyd and Tank, it's sort of, it's growing pains. And I think some of the friction along the way is as Tank became his old man. We see this in a lot of situations. Fighters, as they mature and gain experience, they want to take their affairs into their own hands, and sometimes that causes friction. This has flared up a little bit, but again, like a lot of it seems to be heat of the moment, and then when guys get together and can talk face to face, maybe it's something different. But look, Mayweather Promotions did a lot, for Tank's career, and Tank has continued to build, recently. I hope they can come back together, because look, I think they're a great team.
Well, Stephen, it's always a pleasure. I do hope to catch up with you again this week, but I'm not going to hold that to dear to you.
See you at least for Tank, I'm sure.
100%. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Okay, great.
Wall Street Memes Casino
I'm fine.
and Sportsbook.